Hello and welcome everyone, it is me, TheLaval, also known as the Power To-Do List, back for you with another video and a very special deck profile indeed. This is, according to Wikipedia, as my kind of source for this one, a anime deck profile themed after Leo from Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's, which you all probably know is playing Morphtronics in the anime. And yeah, he's definitely my favorite character throughout all of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime, not only for his deck, but also for who he is. But yeah, let's get into his very slim extra deck first, which only consists of a Power Tool Dragon. You know this guy. Reveal 3 equip spells. In the anime, he just adds 1 random equip spell from your entire deck to your hand. And he can, rid himself of one of his equip spells to protect himself from being destroyed. And his evolved form, Livestream Dragon. On summon, you can make your life points become 4,000. You don't take any effect damage while he's on the field, and also if he would be destroyed, he can banish an equip spell from the graveyard, which are some really cool boss monsters, some of my favorite synchros of all time, Power Tool Dragon being my favorite card. That he uses throughout the series or kind of picks up on at the beginning of Season 2 of 5Ds, with Power Tool Dragon being the first one. Then getting into his main deck, here's Morphtronics. We have first of course, we have Morphtronic Self-On. In attack position, roll a 6-sided die, reveal that many cards from the top of your deck, and summon a level 4 Lore Morphtronic. In defense, you just look at the top cards depending on what you roll off a die. And yeah, probably one of his most central cards. He plays this since the beginning. Very cool card indeed. Then we have a copy of Morphtronic Scopen. One of his 3 tuners he plays throughout the whole anime. While in attack position, you can special summon a level 4 Morphtronic from your hand, and while in defense, it's a level 4. If I recall correctly, he actually doesn't use the defense position throughout the anime. But yeah, definitely one card that helps him to go into Power Tool Dragon a few times alongside this guy, Morphtronic Remoten. Banish a Morphtronic from grave while in attack to add a Morphtronic from your deck to hand with the same level as the banished one. And while in defense, you can discard a Morphtronic and add 1 Morphtronic with the same level as the discarded one to hand. Also a cute, cool tuner, and I think this was the first one he used in the anime to go into Power Tool Dragon in the duel against Seiya, when they were testing him for psychic abilities. Then, a very late edition, he used this in his final duel. The 3-way of him, Jack, and Luna against Aporia. While in attack, it reverses each bit of effect damage to your opponent instead. And while in defense, if he gets destroyed by battle, you don't take any battle damage for the rest of the turn. I think in the anime it worked different, where like it had like a coin toss mechanic almost, where like you saw the lights flicker on the rim here, and like when your opponent would reduce the life points to 0, and when you got a specific color, you would be revived with 100 life points, or something similar to that. Then also a card he was playing really early on, Morphtronic Boom Boxen. While in attack, this guy can attack twice, and while in defense, he can once per turn negate an attack on a Morphtronic monster. Definitely a cool array on effects, which is why I still like this card to this date. Next up, we have Morphtronic Radion. While in attack, each Morphtronic gains 800, and while in defense, each Morphtronic gains 1,000 defense. Yeah, the boosting is nice. Definitely one of the cooler main deck Morphtronics, especially, if you're trying to beat your opponent really hard. So yeah, definitely a really cool monster. Then we have Morphtronic Videon, a more situational card, to be honest, but still a cool card nonetheless, because for each equip spell this guy is equipped with, he either gains 800 attack or 800 defense, which is really neat and definitely something that you can consider in equip-focused builds. Also another late addition, Morphtronic Statement. While in attack, your opponent has to attack this guy, and the monster that destroys him loses 300 attack. And in defense, he cannot be destroyed by battle, and when he is attacked, he swaps himself to attack and swaps an opponent's monster to defense. Really cool card. I really like this guy, especially like in slower formats where you can just set him turn 1 and he can essentially tank 2 hits. So yeah, definitely a really cool card. Then a very iconic Leo card, which actually is listed as a 3 of, again, according to Wikipedia. Morphtronic Magnon, the legendary Magna lock combo of having 2 magnets in defense, which locks your opponent out of attacking you, that he tried to set up against Yusei and did so, but couldn't win in the end due to, I think, card shifter or whatever that spell card is called that Yusei played. While in defense, you have to attack Morphtronic Magnon to create the Magna lock, and while in attack, he has to attack the strongest monster your opponent controls. But yeah, definitely an iconic card that was central to his early strategies. Another card that was central to these strategies is Morphtronic Datatron, of which we have 2. While in attack, you can tribute a monster and burn your opponent for 600 damage. And while in defense, you can once per turn inflict 300 damage to your opponent. Because that was essentially his way of winning the games. He was set up the Magna lock at first and then just try to burn with Datatron and similar effects for game. Another burn card that actually is only seen when he looks through his deck, I think, is Morphtronic Clocken. While in attack, this guy gains 500 for each morph counter on him, and while in defense, he's essentially wave motion cannon. He gains a morph counter per turn, and you contribute him to burn your opponent for 1,000 per morph counter that was on this card. Yeah, it's a slower wave motion cannon, but definitely if you're trying to stall burn your opponent, not too terrible, but probably something you won't see ran much nowadays. Then we have a Morphtronic Cameron. While in attack position, if he gets destroyed by battle, you can special summon a level 4 or lower Morphtronic monster from your hand or graveyard. Neat floating effect, I guess, but nothing to really write home about. And while in defense, Morphtronic monsters you control cannot be targeted for effects. Sadly, this includes your own. Otherwise, this might have been a rather decent card. Then we have a Morphtronic Magnon Bar, probably the worst Morphtronic card ever printed, honestly, because while in attack, once per turn, if you control exactly 2 other face-up attack position monsters and no other monsters, you can make him gain the combined attack of all the monsters, and only he can attack that turn. Those changes last until the end phase, and while in defense position, monsters you control cannot attack. So yeah, he, I think, played this only once in the duel against DVAC and tried to give it to him to lock him out of attacking. But sadly, it didn't work. Then something from his Turbo Duel, from his one Turbo Duel throughout the anime, Morphtronic Vacuuman. I love this guy. While in attack, you can remove an equip spell that he is equipped with and burn your opponent for 500. And while in defense, you can basically relinquish one of your opponent's monsters, only that he doesn't gain the attack points, which would make Vacuuman all the more cooler, I think. But yeah, even sucking up a monster is definitely a cool effect. But yeah, this is from his one Turbo Duel. And then some throwbacks to a simpler time, I guess. We have one Gadget Hauler. Once per turn, you can discard any number of Morphtronic monsters, and this guy gains 800 for each of them. It's a relic of like the first wave of Morphtronic support. In modern builds, you will most likely not see this guy ran, but it is still something that Leo focused his deck on at like the beginning of Season 1. I think his Fortune Cup deck was definitely focused on making this guy and hitting your opponent once for game. So yeah, definitely something that is important to his deck. Another card you only see in his deck, and that I find actually really interesting in concept, Gadget Driver. This is essentially something you can discard from your hand during either player's turn to swap the battle position of a, I think actually any number of Morphtronic monsters you control. So you can pitch this, and then if you have like 3 Morphtronic monsters on field, you can switch their battle positions to where their effects would be more favorable in that current situation. So like, if your opponent swaps your Magnons to attack, you can just discard this and swap them back to defense. Actually an interesting card and concept, to be fair. Then getting into his spells, there are a lot, especially equipped spells. We start off with the iconic Double Tool C&D. Only equipped this to Power Tool Dragon or a Morphtronic monster. I think in the anime he only equipped this to Power Tool Dragon ever. But yeah, in the anime, his deck was kind of Power Tool Dragon and then Protect the Castle. During your turn, the monster gains 1,000 attack and negates the monster's effects when he attacks, which I think actually came up really, really nicely in the duel against Seiya, since he made Power Tool, equipped him with that, and then was able to run over Crabons. And during your opponent's turn, your opponent has to attack the equipped monster, and a monster that battles the equipped monster is destroyed at the end of damage step. Definitely, I think his most central and most iconic equip spell, you know, seeing Power Tool Dragon with these is almost like an alternate art at this point, because like half of the images you see of Power Tool Dragon are with those double tools. Another cool equip spell he used was Power Pickaxe. You can, once per turn, banish a monster from your opponent's graveyard that has a level less than or equal to the level of the equipped monster, and banish it. And the equipped monster gains 500 until the end of the turn, which is like actually a really neat effect, honestly. And like this DD Crow-esque effect to boost yourself is definitely something I find neat. So yeah, this is one of those one-off anime cards that came clutch in that duel, but definitely fun to read. And like if you're planning on doing like some anime accurate duels, this could actually come in clutch. Then we see Morphtronic Cord. This is a card that screams, you know, MST was limited at the time, because you can only equip this to a Morphtronic monster, and if the battle position of that equipped monster is changed, you can destroy one spell and trap card on the field, which is kind of neat. And like some of the Morphtronic support, as mentioned, get to driver before, and like we are going to get to Morph Transition later on, does enable you to easily swap your battle positions. So yeah, maybe in a slower format, again, if you're doing anime accurate decks, this might actually be a decent card to run. Then we have a Morphtronic Engine. You can only equip this to a level 3 or lower Morphtronic monster. That monster's base attack is doubled until the second standby phase after this card's activation. And afterwards, at that point, you destroy the card and take damage equal to the equipped monster's base attack. So kind of a win more card, turns Datatron into a 2400 body, which is okay, you know. But this is again one of those cards that you only saw in his deck when he was looking through it at one point. Yeah. Then we have a copy of Breakdraw, also a equip spell he uses semi-frequently, I would say. You can only equip this to a machine monster, and if the equipped monster destroys a monster your opponent controls and sends it to the grave, you can draw one card. You destroy this card during the third end phase after its activation, which is like one of those really weird effects, honestly. But like in general, you know, drawing extra cards, and like I think he's semi-consistently use this, speaking. But yeah, definitely also a really neat card. And then we have Megamorph, which is a really iconic card in general, because if your life points are lower than your opponent's, the attack of the equipped monster is double its original. And while your life points are higher, the attack of the equipped monsters are half its original attack. I think he used this against Divac, and at that point the life points were equal, which is why this card actually didn't do anything. But definitely another cool equip spell that he is running. Then we have also something I think from the duel against Divac, the Rocket Pillar equip spell. While the equipped monster is attacking, it cannot be destroyed by battle, and at the end of the damage step, if the equipped monster attacked, the attack target loses attack equal to the attack of the equipped monster until the end phase. Also kind of neat, makes you able to get over bigger monsters. I think he used that, or rather, he and Luna used that in combination with another equip spell and Ancient Fairy Dragon to get over Divac's Earthbound Immortal. So yeah, definitely a neat card for those anime duels. We have one copy of Junkbox, Revival level 4 lower Morphtronic monster, but it gets destroyed during the end phase. I think he uses this to bring back a Radion to go into Power Tool Dragon against Seiya. But it's definitely a really neat card to have. Then we have, I think, something. Yep, we also only see while he is looking through his deck Morphtronic Accelerator. This lets you return one Morphtronic monster from your hand to the deck and destroy one card on the field, and afterwards draw a card. A nice even zero card economy wise. I actually think you can definitely fit this into some Morphtronic decks and run this because it's a really good card and a really cool effect. So yeah, definitely cool to have. And yeah, on cards that are not as cool, Factory of 100 Machines. You banish all Morphtronic monsters from your graveyard and target a face-up machine. That machine gains 200 attack per banished Morphtronic until the end phase. He used this in the duel against Greiger in the Fortune Cup to power up his Gadget Hauler to like 3,800 attack almost. So yeah, it was definitely gonna swing for a lot of damage there. But in general, the next card is a better replacement, which is Limiter Removal. Until the end of the turn, double all face-up machine monsters attack. But each monster affected by this will get destroyed during the end phase. A win more card, probably one of the more iconic machine cards in general. Definitely a cool thing. Then we have a Scapegoat, actually, something that we see in his hand, I think, at one point, maybe. Yeah, summon 4 sheep tokens, but for the rest of the turn you cannot summon any other monsters. Something cool to have, again, if you want to do some anime-accurate deck duels, this is definitely one of the better cards to have in your deck, because this stores for a bit of time and is also cool. Then we have a Pot of Avarice. Shuffle back 4 monsters from your graveyard to draw 2 cards. Allows some neat recursion. Also one of those like cool cards to have when you are playing in a slower format. Then we have Magical Mallet. Shuffle any number of cards from your hand back into the deck and draw that many cards from your deck. Fixes your hand in some situations. Is still, I think, a -1. Yep, it's still a -1. Definitely a -1. So yeah, it's an anime card. What more do you want? And then we cap off the spell lineup with a copy of Twister, actually a foil one. Pay 500 life points, target a face-up spell and trap on the field, destroy it. Can come up, but MST is just a straight-up better version of this. Getting into his trap lineup, we have one Morph Transition. This is like one of the more iconic cards of his deck in general. If a Morphtronic monster is targeted for an attack, you swap that Morphtronic monster's battle position and negate the attack. Definitely something that helps the deck a lot and has some quite nice synergy, as mentioned, with cards like, for example, Morphtronic Cord, and also some of the defense position effects of your Morphtronic monsters like Boomboxen and Staplen. So yeah, definitely a really cool card. Then we have Morphtronic's Scramble. You can only activate this when your opponent attacks you directly and you control no monsters. You negate the attack and special summon a Morphtronic from your hand. He used this in the Turbo Duel alongside Luna against Lester in like the Maclord Emperor arc, when they were all on their duel boards, which is like also a really neat trap card. You know, it's situational, but like, yeah, it's all right. You know, it's just gotten old, and nowadays you probably won't see this ran in many lists. Then another card we see in his hand, Morphtronic Monotron. Continuous trap. When a Morphtronic monster is summoned, you can change it to face-up defense position. Something I would really like on a field spell, but yeah, we get it in a continuous trap. Then a actually kind of decent continuous trap, Morphtronic Bind. While you control a face-up Morphtronic monster, monsters that are level 4 or higher that your opponent controls cannot attack or change their battle position. So it's kind of an archetypal gravity bind, which is actually kind of neat, to be fair. So yeah, definitely something kind of cool, again, for slower, more anime-heavy formats. Then we have Power Up Adapter. He, I think, also played this in his final duel in the anime. You treat this as an equip card after activating it. You target a face-up Morphtronic monster you control, equip it with this, and the equipped monster cannot attack. Then you can target another face-up monster on the field, and that monster gains the equipped monster's attack. So yeah, something that can help you OTK, because you can equip this to a monster that has already attacked and, you know, give another monster some attack points, which is really neat. And like, if this wasn't as slow as it is, this might be fun for some main deck OTK variants. Next up we have Power Break. If you control a face-up Power Tool Dragon, you can target 3 equipped spells on the field or in the graveyard. shuffle those cards back into the deck, and burn your opponent for 500 for each. This was also played, I think, in the Turbo Duel. Yeah, it's also from the Turbo Duel. Definitely a neat way to recur, your equip spells for Power to Dragon, which is definitely something you want to do, especially when you have some really good ones like Double to a C&D laying in the grave. And then capping off his main deck is a copy of Urgent Tuning. During your battle phase, after this effect resolves, you can special summon a Synchro monster with monsters that you control as a Synchro summon. So yeah, just a card that quickly enables you to Synchro summon in the battle phase to get more damage in. And yeah, this has been the most accurate anime deck profile for Leo you can get, since those are all the cards that are printed in the TCG that he plays. Some of the cards that I can't get because they're anime exclusives are Central Shield, Double Ripple, Gadget Box, Level Mirroring, Paint Power, Power Converter, the Block Lock, Damage Eraser, Morphtronic Impact Return, Remake Puzzle, Respect Synchron, and Synchro Big Tornado. Yeah, otherwise, this is just, a relic from the past. It is Leo's anime deck, so definitely let me think what you let me know what you think of this. Other way around. Let me know what you think of this down below, because I'd definitely be interested in maybe making some anime character deck profiles in the future, because I found it interesting in concept. So let me know down below maybe what characters you want to see, and I'll see if I can't get to those. So yeah, I will thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you guys again next time. But until then, goodbye.